I'm live. I'm live. I'm live. We're live. Somebody once said that I would make a great fortune teller. And I said, you know what? In my entire life, I never want to be doing a job where people see me looking like this. I mean, they've seen me looking worse. They've seen, they've seen me looking truly unfortunate. But why would I deliberately do it twice? Why would I go out of my way? By the way, that's a trick question. And that is my subject for today. I'm going to talk about trick questions for a couple of reasons. And the first one is that they are so frustrating. There isn't actually a word for how frustrating they are. Hang on a minute. I'm going to dispense with the idea. Not the ideas themselves, but the indicator. Thanks, Mom. Well, you're welcome, dear. So here we are. In my tiny corner of the world. It snowed like everything last night. It was not going down or sideways. It was going in little whoop-de-doos. And so it didn't really matter which window of the house you stuck your head out of it, you were going to get snow in your face. And the only reason I was sticking my head outside was to see exactly how high the snow was piling around the car, which I will have to clean off later today. Yay. So here's the thing about trick questions. Quite often, they're not deliberately intended to make fun of you. Quite often, they are innocently posed by people who didn't think them through, people who didn't consider the context and probable consequences based on the person they're asking the question of. So, one of my all-time favorite trick question scenarios to dislike is when we make an appointment to go and see a professional who is very good at something that we have no idea about. So we go to see a doctor, or we go to see a lawyer, or we go to see somebody who's going to repair your car because it has started making a noise that doesn't sound like a good thing. So we go in, we make the appointment, we find parking, we find the building, we manage not to step in a puddle and ruin our shoes. We go in and we wait our turn. And when they're ready to see us, we go in and we sit down. We go through all of that to get there. And the reason we went there is to acquire information, knowledge that they have and we need. That's the setup, right? I'm trying to set this in motion in a way that we all are standing at the same place on a page on the level field, and we're all going, yeah, that's basically why I go to a professional, why I go to all that trouble, and I know it's going to cost me money and time and distractions. And then after I get the information, there's going to be stuff I have to do. So I make the decision to go and get this information in the knowledge that getting the information isn't the end of the journey, it's the beginning of the journey. So we go to the professional, we sit down, and they say with a perfectly straight face, how can I help you? Now, here's the thing. If I knew how you could help me, I wouldn't need you. If what seems to be the trouble? I have no idea. Where does it hurt? Ah, that's a little more helpful. What happened recently that brought you here? Ah, that's more helpful. What is troubling you about your current situation? Ah, you see what those different questions are doing? Here's what those different questions are doing. They are providing context. They are positioning the next thing you say for the person who's going to answer you. If I go to a lawyer, it's clearly because someone has done me wrong, or I may have done someone wrong, and I want to know what the risk factors are. If I want to achieve something and it requires legal advice, I want to know what it is that I have to do and why, what the consequences could be if I don't. I'm looking for information that keeps me safe. Correct? Basically, that's it. I mean, legal issues usually mean, am I about to cause everyone the utmost damned astonishment? And will they try to get even with me? That would be why you need legal advice. If you go to a doctor, you go to a doctor because all the normal thumps, bumps, wheezes, and clanks that go on in our bodies are different. And they're different, and we don't know why they're different. And it may have suddenly started recently, or it may have been going along for a long time now. And now we're finally saying, you know what? That's not normal. Maybe I need to ask somebody. Again, even though one of them is health and the other one is legal consequences, the conversation is the same. I am on the brink of something that concerns me. I am standing on the edge and I'm about to look into the abyss, and I need to know what my risk factors are. That's why we go to people with information that we don't have. We need to know the information to serve us. If they ask you a question you can't possibly answer, what happens then, so it's a trick question, how can I help you? Because no matter what we say, they're going to have to ask you another 10 questions. And when that begins to happen, I wonder if they charge by the question as opposed to the hour. And I say to myself, why can't they say, do you understand what I do? Do you understand where my expertise is? I do this, and I assist people in situations like this. Does this apply to you? How can I help you? Again, you see what it does is it positions me to know where I stand and how close I am to the thing that I need to understand. One of the reasons it frustrates me as much as it does, and I was talking about this briefly over on Facebook as the teaser, is that I'm a military kid. And I've talked about this a lot. Military kids are transferred a lot. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, you come home from school on a Wednesday and there are boxes in the living room. And they weren't there this morning. So what has happened is that at some point during the day, the parent who is in the service got their marching orders, got their transfer papers. They know when they're going and they know where. And so now it's up to us to get ready. And how we get ready is to pack the stuff that we care about and jettison the rest. That is my context. I know my day is going to go downhill if I walk into a room and suddenly it's full of empty boxes. I know something has changed dramatically, and I have done it so often that I know how to brace myself for the oncoming impact. For the rest of life, people who are civilians who've grown up in a town and they didn't move until they were in their 20s, they grew up with contexts that I have never had. They are able to say, my house, oh, it's next door to the church. It's just down the block from the gas station. It's right beside that big oak tree. I don't have that context. I don't know where I am in relation to anything most of the time. I've always said that you can spot somebody who has traveled a lot as a child because they can't tell the difference between forever and 4:30, and they have no idea where their house is. I mean, they know where this house is right now, but if you say, where's your house? And you ask them out of nowhere, they can very easily tell you about the house in the last place because it's hard to keep track. So because I go through life with less context points than most people around me, I ask more questions. I know that I am probably just enough out of step with everybody else that I will see things through a very different lens. We all see things, even if you're standing right next to me, you're not seeing the thing I'm seeing from exactly the same point of view. You are 2 degrees over and the sun is casting a shadow differently. And so this is the context that is so important. And I'll tell you why. Trick questions make us feel dumb. Trick questions make us feel like we don't belong, like somebody is making fun of us. And the only reason those feelings emerge is when we feel generally on shaky ground. And why we feel those feelings is because we have always felt them. Not that we always feel like outsiders, but we have always been kind of on, let's not say red alert or even amber alert, but let's talk about yellow alert for the possibility of danger, the possibility of the utmost damned astonishment surprise that we weren't ready for. And that goes automatically bang back to the cave days when a surprise was never good. Never good. A surprise usually had teeth like this and was hungry. And oh, look, here you are. Takeout. And we have never, ever forgotten that, even though it's lodged way in the back and it's way buried in the subconscious memory. That part of our body, that part of our brain, that part of our wiring has never forgotten that. You know how on the computer, when you have an issue with your computer and it asks you if you want to go back to the default settings? The default settings are the settings that were put into your computer at the factory. Okay, our default settings are cave settings. Our default settings are saber-tooth whatnots outside the cave. Our default settings are one tribe. And there's only so many of us, and there's only so much room, and it's not that big a cave. So our wiring, our default settings are fight, flight, freeze, hide, comply, in order to make sure that the alpha, the one making all the decisions for the tribe, doesn't look at us and say, get out. We need to be valued. We need to be a productive, recognized, heard, seen member of the tribe if we want to survive. We have to pay our dues. We have to understand what's going on. We have to get with the program, or sayonara. All of these things are so buried, we don't give them a blink, but they emerge whammo with no warning when we are faced with a trick question. With a trick question. That was harder to say than I thought. So I want to talk about how we can minimize the fear, the terror, the frustration, the confusion, because life is so much better and easier and more fun when we feel that we got it going on. We got this. We're safe. Yeah, we're working it. We're rocking it. So here's the deal. Here's the mistake. The mistake is that we try to put words to things that can't be qualified, can't be quantified, can't be defined by words. If when we climbed out of the ooze, we could feel fear, we felt fear before our brains created language. We knew it, we could smell it, we could recognize it, we could capitalize on it, we could work with it without knowing what to call it. And by watching, by observing behavior, by repetition, by developing habits of understanding, we could see and smell and understand how fearful we were, how angry we were, how confused. We could recognize that it was this much, or it was this much, or it was off the charts. We didn't have words that we could share. We just knew it because we had known it before. And then along came language. And along came the brain, the front part of the brain that created language. And this brain that created language has no idea, has no clue that emotions rule. Not a clue. That's why you see all these motivational coaches saying, don't let your emotions get the better of you. Good luck with that. Denial is not just a river in Egypt. If you hear a loud noise in the middle of the night that you weren't expecting, it's dark, and you're the only one in the place, and you were sound asleep, and all of a sudden, loud noise, and you wake up. The first thing that happens is a rush of adrenaline. Why? Well, I'll tell you why. It's because your subconscious brain has sensed fear, has sensed danger, because it heard the sound. And it is preparing you to respond to save your life. It is giving you the fuel that you need to run like the wind, hide like everything, make no sound. It has given you what you need to go on high alert to survive. When you hear that sound and you wake up in the middle of the night and you feel that rush, that tingling, the first thing you do is not say, my goodness, I wonder what that was. Let's go and find out, shall we, Marge? We don't do that. The very first thing we do before we speak is we take a deep breath. Not a deep breath, a big breath. Why is it that kind of breath? Because it's fueled by adrenaline. Where does the adrenaline come from? Subconscious. What's it trying to do? Save your life. Why? Well, because it's the maintenance guy. It's the one looking after our life. So don't let your emotions get the better of you. Don't allow yourself to give in. Don't allow yourself to fall in love. Don't allow yourself to give in to temptation. What do you mean, don't allow yourself? Are you listening to you? That's a trick question. Are you listening to you? Because clearly not. If you think you can outthink your spontaneous survival mechanism, you need to go to one of those professionals who says, how can I help you? So here's the direction I'm taking with this and why it matters so much. For the past almost a year now, I've been developing this concept called pivotry in motion. And I defined pivotry when it sort of visited itself upon me as a rare moment when all of our abilities, all of our brains, all of our initiatives, all of our talents and our tools collide. When the subconscious brain and the conscious brain and the prefrontal executive function brain that sees all and knows all come together, and we feel the rush at the same time that we have this deep and complete knowing that something within us has changed. We don't necessarily know the trigger. We can and probably will try to figure that out. But in this moment, when these three aspects of us collide, we are transformed. We are different. And like that old saying goes, you can't go home again. Once we are different, everything in the world looks different because we are seeing it from a different point of view. We are seeing it through this new lens. We are seeing our potential in a way that we never saw it before. And when somebody asks a trick question, what makes you think that's going to work? The reason it's a trick question is that there is no answer. We don't know what makes us think it. All that we know is we know. And one of the reasons we stumble on these trick questions all the time, and I spoke about this a little bit on the Facebook teaser video. When we emerged, when we had very little to go on or tools to work with, what was driving the bus was our subconscious brain that was performing all the functions to keep us alive. And there's all kinds of technical scientific terms to use for these different parts of the brain. And what I try to do is simplify to make it something that is an immediate, oh yeah, I get it. I want to keep this simple so that we can get on the same page and move forward, as opposed to getting lost in the shuffle. So the subconscious brain is also the unconscious brain, the parts of the brain that, keep the heart beating and sending the blood and blinking and digesting and all that stuff. That's routine building maintenance. The subconscious brain takes care of that, or the unconscious brain. It also stores every memory. It operates on simple repetitive function. So habit is the way it learns and shifts and grows and changes. The thing about the subconscious brain that the conscious brain has a hard time understanding is the subconscious brain only lives in the present. Every moment is this moment. That's why, by the way, just kind of as an aside, when we know something a little bit alarming is going to happen in a few days, when we become aware of it here, the subconscious brain starts getting nervous about it because it doesn't know that it's in a few days. If we are thinking it, the subconscious brain thinks it's now, which is why we have butterflies in our stomach and why we get nervous for an event that's going to take place next Saturday. It's because the subconscious is gearing up, is getting us ready. So when we try with our conscious brain to communicate things, events, experiences that the subconscious brain feels, we are trying to create a translation that we're not qualified to make. So the conscious brain doesn't know that. The subconscious brain isn't listening. It's busy. It has stuff to do. Doesn't care. So I want to kind of go into this a little bit more without it getting too, boring and detailed. We have been able to feel things forever. We have been able to feel afraid, cold, hot, confused, lost, hungry. Every sensation, touch, taste, sound, all of that. Reactive emotions, fight, flight, freeze, hide, comply. We are able to, because of the subconscious, tap into those memories. When we walk down a street and we smell something cooking and we have a memory of that smell, immediately in that second, as we are there saying, oh, whatever the memory is front and center as if it is happening now. Walk by a place that bakes bread and you can remember when your grandmother baked bread. You can remember the kitchen you stood in. You can remember the conversations. You can remember what she was wearing. You can remember what the day was like instantly. On another occasion, when you didn't smell fresh baked bread, it would be difficult to recall all those memories. But the subconscious says, oh, that's a match for this. And all of a sudden, there it is. We can do that automatically because of that brain. Here's what we can't do, even if we want to. If somebody says, why do you love this? Why do you hate that? How do you feel? What's it like? How are you doing? Those are trick questions. And they're trick questions for two reasons. We don't have the words to explain because the first time it happened, there were no words, and therefore there is no word assigned to that feeling by that brain because it has no idea what words are. So we scramble to apply a word to a feeling, logic to illogic, and it doesn't work that well. So we scramble, and then we feel another emotion: helpless, confused, different, frustrated. So asking the questions the wrong way, and we ask them in order to connect and communicate. When we ask them the wrong way, we accidentally ruin everything. We push each other apart. We create distance. We create confusion. We create frustration and fear. So how do we fix it? We fix it by figuring out a different way to ask the question, a way that connects rather than separates. So one of the examples that I gave in the teaser, I think is worth repeating because it's something that I've noticed over time. People say, "Well, that's a good idea." And I thought, all right, then let's share the good news. Let's share the word. So I often say to people, on a scale from 1 to 10, how's your day? I try not to say, how are you? Because there's so many random variables involved in that. But if I say on a scale of 1 to 10, how's your day so far? I don't know what the number 6 means to them. I don't know what the number 3 means to them. However, I do know that pretty much everyone who has been to school is familiar with the idea that if 1 or 0 is low and 10 is the ultimate high, then the range of numbers that you have to choose from can position you in other people's minds. If I say, nah, kind of a 5. Okay, well, if I wrote a test in school and I got 50% out of 100, that was a bare scrape by. It kind of a 5 means I'm barely hanging on. If somebody says pretty much a 3, we have every reason to justifiably say, oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry, 3, that really sucks. Is there anything I can do? What does that do? Well, it's a lifeline. And even if you don't say, is there anything I can do? Because maybe you're late and your bus is coming. If you say, I'm so sorry, I hope you feel better. That at least tells the person that you heard them, you saw them, and you care, and you are invested in their improvement, in how they are, in where they are, and where they're going. And that makes us feel less alone. That makes us feel that there is possibly a happy ending somewhere because someone cares. And that means that we matter. And it gives us an opportunity to say, well, they didn't need to do that. How that was really nice. And it gives us that fresh breath. If they say, I started off at a 4, but I'm closing in on a 7, that tells us another story. It tells us that they're following their trajectory and it's on the rise. We can then say something that helps them know that we're cheering them on. Good for you. Well done. Let me know how it turns out. Go 10. And again, there's a connection. There's a connection because even though the question itself is incredibly subjective, incredibly personal, if we can anchor it in something that everybody has a general understanding of, there is a place where we meet and the questions are no longer ridiculous. The questions are no longer, are you listening to you? They make sense. One of the things that was so much fun about being part of the You Can't Do That on Television journey was the fact that the intention behind the show was to connect with people who were feeling confused, feeling less than worthy, feeling overwhelmed by rules and regulations and questions they didn't understand. When they looked at themselves in the mirror, they didn't say, you got this. They sighed and said, oh well, because the age our kids were was the age we all are when we first venture out into the world and try to figure out where we belong. When we're born as humans, we belong to one tribe. By the time we have moved on in life, in society, in our worlds, in our cultures, and we are required to leave home at a specific age to go out into the world and mingle with others of our age, to learn how our society works, the very first thing we do is try to find members of this large group who look like us, who walk like us, who talk like us. We're looking for people like us. We're looking to find our new tribe. When we go home at the end of the day, in those first few years, we're very confused. When we're at home, we know our place in the tribe. We know whether we're a hunter or a gatherer. We know what we're in training to become. We know whether we are a teacher or a learner, a helper, a healer. We know. We're taught from birth. When we go out into the world and we enter this very large tribe, it's overwhelming. There are so many alpha leaders. We don't know who to listen to. What we all try to do is minimize the confusion. That's why you see kids gravitating to one other kid who has a dominant personality. There's the alpha right there. I'm going to go stand there and see what I need to do to qualify to be in this tribe. Because if I'm in this tribe, I'm safe. The alpha is going to keep me safe. That's what we learned there. So what's curious is when we come home at the end of our school day, or when we start a new job and we come home at the end of our work day, all we can talk about amongst this tribe is what happened in that tribe. Why? Because we are the missing link. We are trying to bring that tribe together to make it one tribe, to give ourselves one role that applies all the time. Work smart, not hard. Juggle the fewest number of flaming chainsaws as possible. So the trick questions that we ask, or we find ourselves tasked with answering, get in the way. They slow us down. They scare us out of our minds. And when we're scared, we stop thinking. All we know is fight, flight, freeze, hide, comply. That's not helpful. As my therapist friends so often say, unhelpful, Abby, unproductive. So the video today, given the way things are in the world, given the fact that we just got dumped on by some snow and there's more coming later, and I have to go out and shovel the car out and move it to a safer space, is to make it easy on ourselves to feel safe. To make it easy on ourselves to walk over to the mirror and look in there and say, how you doing? Instead of, are you listening to you? We want to give ourselves the tools and the information that make us feel we got this. We want to be the one who stops that ripple effect of frustration and lashing out when someone has made us feel like we don't matter, like we don't count. On those days when we have to go and deal with an expensive professional to acquire some of their knowledge to serve us, we want to have the language that stops the conversation that begins, "How can I help you?" When a professional asks me that, I say, "I don't know. That's why I'm here. Would you please tell me what you do?" And they blink. "Oh, well, I'm a blah, blah, blah." Yes, and I have no idea what that means. We are both speaking the same actual language, but the context, the definitions of the words escape me. So let's humor me. I'm the one who came in with a fistful of money to pay you to help me. But first of all, you have to teach me the language so that I can understand. Give me the context within which this is going to happen. And the professional says, "Oh, oh, of course, certainly." Sometimes they forget immediately and say, "What would you like to know?" And that's when you say, "Didn't we just go through this?" "I know nothing." What do you do? So there are questions you can ask of people that eliminate the trick question. They've asked the trick question. There is no possible sensible answer, and you want to throttle them. What you say instead of throttling them is, "I have 2 questions to ask you, and then the ball is in your court." The first question is, what do you do exactly? What is it that you do? What is your expertise? And they will tell you. People love to talk about themselves. And when you get an understanding of what their expertise is, you say, "Okay, I'm going to tell you what my problem is. And then I'm going to tell you the second question." So you tell them your problem. And then you say, "Can your expertise address my problem?" And now you're off to the races. Why are these things important? Why am I going down this path? Well, by now, I think you know that it's happening to me, that I am dealing with a bunch of professionals who keep doing that, who keep saying, "And how can I help you?" And I have to start all over again and say, "Look, here's the thing. Do you know who I am?" No. Okay. So if you were going to say, "How can you help me?" you would have no idea, would you? No. Good. So here's who I am. And then I tell them. And I say, "And this is why I'm here. Now, what is your expertise? And can you help me?" And now we're having the same conversation. So, health professionals, yes, I am helping a friend who's dealing with a crisis. And oh, by the way, just to clear the decks here, I may have to shift the times, possibly, I hope not the days, but I may have to shift the times that I do the videos for the next little while. And I won't know that for sure until I have my first meeting with them to find out more details. So I wanted to give you a heads up now. Now, the thing is, this will only affect you if you like to watch the videos live as they're happening. Because once they're on YouTube, watch them anytime, and I hope you do. And I hope you watch them many times and tell your friends. I didn't want to leave you in the lurch. I didn't want you to feel, how did that happen? Why wasn't I informed? I want to let you know that these things are happening. Why did I leave it until the last minute? Because I was just informed. So I am passing along as much information as I know. So this is going on. I am leaning in on behalf of someone I care about, as we all do. As I lean in on that, I have to sacrifice other things because I can't be in 2 places at once. I want to give full value to you. I want to give full value to the other things that I do. If it's also snowing, if I also forgot to put gas in the car, if it's also lunchtime and I forgot to buy food, that just makes things worse. And it makes me more vulnerable and distracted. And when people ask trick questions that they didn't think through, it upsets me and makes things worse. And I know without a question in my mind that if it's happening to me, It's happening to you. And it's happening to the people you love who love you. It's happening in your workplace. It's happening on the road. It's happening next door. It's probably happening to the cat and the dog and the gerbil. Therefore, we owe it to ourselves to do the thing I say at the end of every video. Be good to you. You deserve it. And then I say, hug your loved ones because they deserve it too. The only way we stop the ripple effect of fear and toxic swirl is by leaning in and saying, I don't think so. Let me tell you who I am and where I'm coming from. And by the way, on a scale of 1 to 10, how is your day doing? That's the way we win, boys and girls. That's the way we can go to the mirror and look in it and say, how you doing? Instead of the thumbnail image that I posted with this video today is a blooper sketch from You Can't Do That on Television. And it is all about a trick question and all about mom getting it hopelessly wrong and Lisa long suffering in the face of it. And if you've ever seen the blooper, the blooper makes it all worthwhile. It was all my fault, and I knew it. And everyone laughed really hard. And that just made our day that much better. So if you want to go and look it up, you can find it here on YouTube somewhere, I am sure. And it's my gift to you. It's my smile for today. So with all of that said, I'm going to have to let you go. I have to shovel out the car, which means I have to go on, put on sensible boots and sensible clothes and go out there. And that's my least favorite thing to do. However, it's not going to shovel itself. So before I go, I want to tell you that we have 272 subscribers. Thanks to you. So am I greedy? Absolutely. Do I look like a Viking? Absolutely. How many more do I want? I want 272,000 subscribers. That's how many I want for starters. So I would so appreciate it if you do more by telling more of your friends that this is fun. It's harmless. It's not fattening, doesn't cause cavities, gives you a reason to smile. And it's not just these live videos. If you scroll through the different categories, there's podcasts and there's clips from the show. There's all kinds of stuff hidden in there. So I'd love to have you tell your friends to subscribe so we can bump up the numbers and we can be part of this tribe, because more new things are coming, I promise you. And after that, I want to thank you for taking the time, for saying to yourself, oh, I wonder what Abby's talking about today. I'm going to give myself permission to take the time and check it out. I am so grateful to you for doing that, because you make this worthwhile. We are in this together. We are a tribe. People like us, darling, do things like this. So thank you. And after that, the only thing that's left to say is define your terms. Stop asking trick questions. Start telling people to stop doing it too. It's annoying. On a scale of 1 to 10, how do trick questions work for you? Maybe the best question ever. So I will see you very soon. This weekend could be a little complicated for all of us. And if it is, take the deep breaths. You are allowed to give yourself permission to breathe in and out and relax and find reasons to smile. And if people say you don't have permission, you tell them, well, that's wrong. Mom said I do. And have them come and talk to me. How about that? Wouldn't that be a moment in time? And that is not a trick question. So be safe, be kind, whatever kind is supposed to mean. And I will see you next week, and I will let you know the time. Be good to you, my lovelies. You are amazing. Remember to hug your loved ones.